me ask the question of, is hesitancy actually because of interest rates, or is it because of the inventory available?
Welcome to Loans Elevated, the podcast that brings you the latest industry news, expert interviews, and insightful discussions that will help you stay ahead in this dynamic market. I'm your host, Brock Lassick, and I've spent years in the trenches of the mortgage industry, helping individuals and businesses navigate the complex landscape of real estate financing.
I'm your co-host, TJ Heidenreich, and together we'll cover a wide range of topics, from business strategies that skyrocket your success to mindset and motivation that fuel your growth. Sweet. All right, we're back. Another episode. Today we're talking about inventory, market, what we're seeing out there, because things are changing, and it's interesting. I mean, to say the least, the market's always evolving.
Oh yeah,
and we've heard this from one of our mentors in the past. It's not a good market. It's not a bad market. It's the market.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
That's a good way to put it.
Yep. What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to compare to the last couple years in spring that we've seen, and it seems like always on schedule, we start to see interest rates soften, getting into the spring market. There's like slow signs of things getting busier again. You start to see more agents post about their listings going under contract in less than a week with multiple offers. And I know I'm starting to see that. I know you are starting to see that. We've talked about talked to a couple agents about that. And it seems like it's happening the same way, maybe not as early as the last 2 years. I feel like maybe the inauguration and just some uncertainty in the beginning of the year kind of delayed that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do feel like I'm hearing on a lot of fronts that the market is picking up, but we're still in that transitional market where a lot of that stale inventory is either relisted that was sitting on the market last year for months on end, or properties that have just been sitting through quarter four and into quarter one. Those, I mean, we can't really judge the market based off of that, because those are typically just stubborn sellers trying to make X amount of dollars.
It's more of like a make me sell type of
rather otherwise they're not going to move. Like they're
sellers.
not really that motivated to sell, which doesn't really depict what the actual market is doing. I think if there is a house that is in a good location, it's well priced, it's going to get offers and it's going to get them quick. And oftentimes what's funny is we've had multiple occasions where home buyers, we've got 20 plus people pre-approved, and we'll run into situations where the same people in the same price range will start offering on the same house.
Yeah, they're up against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. We see that more often than not. more times than you might think. There's at least once every couple months we'll have a borrower that sends us numbers and be like, oh, we've already ran numbers on this property for another borrower.
Yeah.
So we know this is going to be a hot property.
Well, there's a reason for it, and that makes me ask the question of, is hesitancy actually because of interest rates, or is it because of the inventory available for sales activity? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's somewhat a mix of both.
Yeah.
I feel.
I think interest rates are for sure a deterrent for a good portion of our buyers, but I think also a pretty good portion of it is inventory is pretty short still.
Yeah, where are we at right now?
So I have it pulled up. This is active as of February 28th. And this is twin homes, townhomes, condos, single family.
So taking out land?
Yeah, taking out land, stripping out anything that's really not applicable, mobile homes too. We're at about 9,500 active listings.
Gotcha. Which we saw more just a month ago. Yeah, way more than that.
Yeah, I think we were closer to 10,000, maybe even in 10,000. So we are starting to see a little bit of a decline in inventory, which again is pretty normal for this time of year. Getting into spring, things just start to pick up a little bit more. Yeah,
and you said one key term, which I want to make sure listeners understand, is you said a transitional market, meaning this isn't a buyer's market, it's not a seller's market. Yeah. We're somewhere in that gray area where you're going to see either the house is listed and it flies under contract, it's got multiple offers, or it gets listed and it sits for a couple weeks and or months. So I guess if you're putting in an offer, what are the things you can do as a buyer to make your offer the strongest if it is one of those competitive situations?
Yeah. The biggest thing you could start with is getting fully pre-approved and even pre-underwritten. We do a $5,000 closing guarantee if we have a full fast-track pre-approval, meaning all borrower conditions checked off up front. I would start there. Then you can eliminate any conditions, any possibilities of the loan not working because of you as a borrower. And then I would get really aggressive in the offer, knowing that, and, you know, you have to be within reason. I mean, obviously, if a property is just barely listed, you know, a seller's probably not going to entertain you yet because it's still fresh.
Right.
But I would find properties that I have been on market anywhere between probably 40 to 60 days or longer. And I would get aggressive with offers. I would ask for maxing concessions, which, depending on the loan program, anywhere between 3 to upwards of 9%.
Yeah.
And then I would utilize that to get interest rates that were available in COVID.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about, I had a lock call this morning with a client that it was a VA loan, and they got a ton of concessions. It was the 4% in concessions.
Yeah.
Well, with that kind of money back in concessions, we could have done a 3-2-1 buy down, which would have got him the rates in the 3% range. So that's COVID rates. Or what's cool about VA loans is you can use that money in concessions. He's already bringing in no money down, but you can bring those concessions back to you to pay off debts.
Yeah.
So
the one program that allows it. Yeah.
Yeah. The sky's the limit with concessions on VA. But when you're evaluating how to put an offer in, and of course your agent's can help you through this too, you've got to consider a few things. Number one, how long has the property been listed?
Yeah.
If it's just a couple of days, well, odds are you can't go in swinging for the fences and ask for a ton of concessions, especially if it's competitive.
I mean, you can. You're just probably not going to get the offer.
Yeah, yep. You're just going to have to evaluate what your goals are. If the goal is to solely, if this is the house that you found and you want to get this house and it's competitive, you've got to evaluate a few things. Number one, offer price. Well, I guess it goes back. We've done an episode before on this. What's most important to the sellers?
The certainty.
Certainty, right?
Because they likely need to sell the house to be able to buy their next one.
Yep. So that's going to be, and I find certainty in deadlines, right? I think that's what a lot of sellers would agree with me.
Yeah.
So you want to tighten up your deadlines, which could be your finance and appraisal deadline. If you do something like our fast track pre-approved, which is our $5,000 guarantee, meaning if we don't meet the deadlines you put on the contract, we will pay the buyer or the seller $5,000 out of our pocket because we're that confident in our process. But so tighten up those deadlines. Maybe you have a really quick due diligence deadline so you can get in and make sure there's no deal killing issues with the house and make sure you know what you're walking into, and maybe you waive finance and appraisal and we get the appraisal back before that due diligence deadline.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you need to commit to paying whatever the appraisal is for the property.
Exactly.
I mean, you still have, I think it's important to note that within due diligence, that doesn't mean you're legally
you can cancel.
Able to do any type of inspection during due diligence. And that an appraisal is an inspection.
Yep.
It's just an inspection of value. So you can work that into that due diligence deadline.
Yep. So say you do a 7-day due diligence, you could waive finance and appraisal. Well, now your deal looks super serious. We already have all of your borrower conditions completed because we've already got your loan underwritten up front.
Yeah.
So now all you need is that appraisal and make sure there's nothing wrong with the house. So we can rush that appraisal to be done in that same amount of time and really give that seller certainty in the first 7 days of it going under contract that you're serious about this. And if that's the case, we have it all done. Then we're talking about closing just a few days later if that's important to you and or the seller.
Well, and the crazy thing is a lot of people think, that's really only applicable to like the COVID market.
Yeah,
that's
because
really
it's not that competitive.
But honestly, it's just as important today because as a seller, I mean, anyone can really go, or I guess more so agents, but probably anyone can go look at average days on market in each county in Utah or wherever you're looking to buy. Yeah. And it'll tell you, and a seller knows that because an agent's going to have that conversation. If a seller is under the impression that average days on market is 70 days and they get an offer to close in 7 days and they can wipe their hands clean finally from this property and not sit on the market for 2.5 months and they can buy their next house that they want to buy, they're going to be, if I was a seller, I'm going to be a little more willing to budge on my bottom line, so long as I have enough to move on, especially if I bought the house 5-10 years ago and I have thousands, hundreds of thousands in equity.
Right. I think this applies to everything. We need to sometimes take a step back and look at this. Even looking at myself, just this week, we had a workout bike. We listed online for $500.
Yeah.
And it's not like we need the cash, or I'm just sick of it collecting dust sitting there.
Right.
So it's like we listed it, $500, just trying to get rid of it. Probably could have got more out of it, but I wanted to get it out quick.
That was more of the convenience.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I get someone saying, "Oh, I can come get it this weekend for $500." But then I've got another person saying, "Well, would you take $480? I'll come get it right now."
Hell
$480,
yeah.
Come get it right now. I want the certainty that it's out of here.
Yeah.
So it applies to everything.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you are looking for concessions and it's tight, try something like that.
Yeah.
Give them the certainty and then ask.
And do the work up front. I mean, we will push that for a lot of our clients, and some of them take the advice.
Yeah.
And as well as agents, they play a role in it, and some don't. And I'll tell you right now, there's a clear difference between the offers that go in that are able to have the certainty knowing they have everything checked off so we can tighten up deadlines, and the offers that didn't, and maybe we had a few missing pieces of information. We had to extend deadlines. Maybe there's a couple of contingencies. Those offers are treated a lot different. Like, we're not just talking out of our rear end here.
Yeah.
This is an actual fact. If you want to get what you want out of the house, whether it's concessions or price reduction, you got to do your part of the work first. Once you do, your odds of getting the offer you want accepted, probably 2x at least.
I would agree. Yeah. Minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would be doing.
And it's not to say that we think that, like, again, we don't think the market's that competitive. I'd say we're still getting concessions on 70% of our deals right now. And we're probably not getting the full, let's say if we're only allotted 3% on this program, maybe we're not getting the full 3%. Maybe it's only 2.5% or 2%, but still a healthy amount to either A, lower the borrower's cash they're bringing in at closing, or B, getting some sort of buy down, whether it's temporary or permanent. Yeah.
Well, and I think what the quickness, comparing again COVID to today, and now people think that type of offer is only applicable to the COVID market. That was needed to get an offer accepted. That was needed to beat out multiple offers.
That was just the bare minimum.
Today, that is needed if you want to get the exact offer or as close possible to it if you're trying to get really aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's more so
if you want the leverage
means to better terms. It's not necessarily needing to do it to get the offer accepted. Yeah, you'll likely get the offer accepted regardless. I mean, again, if there's no other offers, I mean, the seller's going to play ball, but if you come out of the gate like, hey, we'll close in 15 days or less, strong offer, waive finance and appraisal, even though you still can, of course, check that the value of the property is going to be okay within that due diligence, like TJ mentioned, you're going to increase your odds to get everything that you want out of the offer.
Well, it's funny you said that. Talking about other markets, isn't it funny how different this market feels from even just a couple of years ago, or maybe a year and a half ago? We're talking about similar rates, but rates a year and a half ago at 6.5%, no one wanted to touch. And now when I'm talking to borrowers at 6.5, they've accepted that this is the way that rates are. Yeah. The
7s are the pain point.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you and I were just talking about this too. It's like now once we get to the 7s, that's when it starts to get wishy-washy and people are like, I don't know. Do we go back and just rent, or do we just stay in the house we're in? But now the borrowers that are coming to us and the 6.5, they've accepted it is what it is. Eventually there's going to be time that we can refinance. No crystal ball there, but at least we're coming up with a plan to get them in now, because they're still missing out on appreciation if you're not in the game right now.
And what we have to remember too is it's all non-committal, right? You could get to the point where you're fully pre-approved, bulletproof, have everything checked off. Even if worst case you got your credit pulled, you can go all the way through the offer process, go under contract, decide it's not going to work out, back out and not buy. Yeah. And you'll lose nothing. Maybe worst case a credit pull and maybe an inspection.
Yeah.
If you get to that point. But there's no reason to delay because you're not committing yourself. You're not signing to that house and the 30-year mortgage
Mm-hmm.
until you sign closing documents.
Yeah.
So why rule out the chances of getting the deal that you want before even trying? It seems silly.
No, it's true. It's true. And say the market doesn't play in your favor, which we've seen this. I mean, I've had clients that bought a home a couple of years ago that now they bought in 2022 and they're listing right now just because they did a temporary rate buy down and rates didn't play in their favor. But now which doesn't sound great, but they're selling their house and they're making almost $70,000 in that time span, paying off debt. Now their net out of pocket when they're going to purchase a new home is going to be less than what it was before, even though rates are in a similar range.
Yeah.
But they're paying off debts with the equity they've gained in the past couple of years. So it's not like
decreasing the monthly amount that they're paying.
Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they're freeing up those debts.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think this market is an interesting one.
So many ways to win.
Yeah. And so many ways to navigate it. So if you've got questions and, or you just need guidance or help, reach out to us anytime. That's what we're here for. And if there's other topics you want us to cover on the podcast, let us know. We'd love to help out wherever we can, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in. For more industry insights, follow us on all platforms at Loans Elevated.
And to get in touch with our team, call or text 801-713-4000 or visit loanselevated.com.